has a dark and brooding soul. With a dire plan and a hateful man, domination is my goal.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us here on a special episode of the Westmarch Workshop. Guess instead of saying us, I should say me now, as it's solo for right now. Still going through and having some talks about potential co-hosts or getting some guests on the show, so stay tuned for that. But you know, it's the holidays. We've got you know, lots going on, and just wanted to have a little bit of a nice laid-back episode here. We'll talk about a little bit about the news, and we've got some lore and story to go and talk about. So let's go ahead and just pull up a chair, you know, gather around the lovely desktop image of a Yule log burning in the fire that I'm sure that everybody has on their screen at this time of year, and let's go and have some story time with Nein. And if you're not familiar, this is one of my favorite holiday tunes, Nasty Diablo, back in the days when Blizzard used to go all out for every holiday. I tried going through and finding some old screenshots, you know, for the episode tonight, and I could not. Like, the old Diablo 2 website would actually have all these, like, Christmas, not fan art, but it was because it was like official art that was done with just like the holidays and such, and they did some Halloween art, and it was a whole bunch of stuff. Like, they would just go all out, and you know, nowadays it's a little bit different. They've got some sometimes they'll send out like a little like holiday card or holiday greeting, you know, that they'll make or for social media, but it's just, you know, bigger company, bigger plans and things that they're working on. But, well, as we usually start off, I will start off with our weeks in gaming. And for the past couple weeks, things have been busy. I haven't had as much free time as I would have liked, but I have at least been going and making some progress in Diablo 2, and it's been a treat. It's been a real change of pace compared to like a Diablo 3 season start, because you don't have, I guess, goals so much as opposed to just doing normal and then doing nightmare and then doing hell, or I want to try and get a Bartux, or I'm currently searching for a four-socketed polearm for insight so that way I can keep up with my the mana on my traps. Because, speaking of traps, like, that's going back with the Diablo 2 stat point system, where you always feel that you never have enough mana, but putting any points into energy are wasted. Like, it's just completely pointless, because you'll get to the point where you have an infinite supply of mana potions, and so what was the point of ever putting a point into energy when your resource doesn't matter? And that is another big discussion that I will have at some other later point in time, you know, regarding the future of the franchise, Immortal and such, and how resource systems, you know, what do they mean? What different styles and systems can they do? Did D3 get it right, or could we look at some other RPG systems that have done resources in a different way, or even just the supposed cooldown resource mechanic that the devs are discussing with for Immortal? But we'll see. And of course, one of the other great things going back and playing Diablo 2 is just you get the feel for how things were. You always have that nostalgia of just how great, you know, the game was. And while admittedly I still have a lot of fun while playing it, there are some aspects that don't really stand the test of time. And I'm not talking about the graphics. I really don't mind the graphics at all. But just, oh my god, desync issues. You think that the enemy is standing here? No, the enemy is actually standing over here. So while you're attacking the image, you're just whiffing on everything while it kills you. And all of a sudden you die, and then the enemy is like on the other side of the screen. So lots of fun stuff, and obviously I'm not playing hardcore. I have died many times. Many times. It's been a lot of fun. And I've actually spoken a little bit with Leviathan, with him going through and playing the Path of Exile, and comparing and contrasting some notes, you know, what's some of the things, like D3 compared to D2, Path of Exile compared to D3, D2 compared to Path of Exile, and some fun like little discussions about things that Blizzard could do differently for the future of the franchise. Moving on to some of the larger news that we've had since the last episode. Of course, the Season 16 PTR has come and gone, and just a couple days ago we got the official 2.6.4 patch notes. And in them, they're mostly the same, but some sets got buffed, like Legacy of Nightmares or Barb's got some buffs, and some others got, I guess, not necessarily nerfs, but they didn't get buffed as much as they were on the PTR. Particularly Ina's and Talrasha's, their damage bonuses that they had gotten compared to the PTR had been scaled back some. No, there was no like real big designer commentary on it, so they're not really addressing why they did those changes. A lot of people, especially on the monk side, they've got concerns that the meta is going to stay exactly as it was prior to this, and that the Ring of Royal Grandeur buff isn't going to be big enough to shake things up, and none of the other sets are going to displace what's already the top builds, that it will bring them closer, but they're still going to just be, monk is monk at this point, and that they wanted to try something new, and they feel as if they're not getting it. We'll have to wait and see how much the Ring of Royal Grandeur buff plays into it, if there will be some sort of secret build that goes and pops up that they'll actually be able to get some changes in there towards the top end of the meta. But if you're not really concerned about those super hardcore pushes or trying to like chain run some form of equivalency of a rat run and Greater Rift 100, you at least will have a lot of fun, going through, clearing up to 70, doing some 80s, maybe some 90s with friends, and, getting your chapter rewards and calling it quits from there. Other than that, we just have, again, we covered it a little bit on the last episode, but I did want to go and show, we have all of the just kind of like the confirmation that the seasonal conquests, so you can plan out what it is that you want to do. This season is going to be a relatively simple one in order to go through and get to Guardian. Level 3 gyms to 65, kill 350 monsters from a cursed chest, and then clear a Torment 10 Rift in 2 minutes or less. Boom, you're done. It's a pretty simple, straightforward, conquest pass up to a Guardian, which sometimes the conquests end up being my most difficult step in getting up to Guardian, and so I do enjoy that. We have the seasonal rewards, cosmetic rewards. Let me zoom in there a little bit for you. Sorry about that. And we've got, again, the map of Sanctuary for the portrait frame and the beautiful monarch butterfly wings as your chapter 4 rewards. Oh, why are you? Sorry. Transitioning here. Let me fix that. It's not playing through the rest of the images. There we go. And then finally, we've got some quality of life improvements that we'll be able to go through and enjoy. So now, when a primal item drops, you no longer have to wait to identify it in order to get the finding out that it's a primal, and so that way you won't be like me and also only realize that you have found a primal when you notice that you got 15 forgotten souls from the the disenchanted item, as opposed to 1 or 3. You'll now just see it, it's there, you get to go through, pick it up. You won't know the stats, you'll still have to identify it, but before you identify it, you'll at least know that a primal item dropped. And in addition to that, and what I think is really cool, the icon on the map. So when a primal does drop, you've got that big pentagram icon that appears right there on the minimap. So now that way, especially when you're going through and you're clearing, once you kind of have your gear set together and you're just kind of clearing out Nephilim rifts and such, and people are going and clearing in all different directions, you don't really have to feel that pushed to try and go back, well, there's that one legendary that dropped on the other side of the map. Maybe I should go and pick it up, just in case. Now it's like, no, that's just a star. Screw that. It's not a pentagram. I don't care. Which, it's a nice little quality of life improvements that are coming along that size. One of the more interesting things also that we learned is that this is apparently only going to be a 2-month season, and that the start of Season 16 is being pushed back from what was originally January 11th to January 18th. And then we also have the proposed end date of the season is going to be March 17th. So, just under two full months, which will be interesting to see what they want to do. This is, to me, if they had released Season 16 when it would have come up in the cycle, essentially kind of like a week or so ago, March would be the end point, for this particular season that we should be starting tomorrow. If the things had continued, we'd either be 6 days into the season, or the season would be starting tomorrow, I believe, based on what the original Season 15 end dates were. So it looks like they kind of have these dates hard-coded in the production cycle, and if anything gets delayed, they're just pushing back the start and not the end date to coincide with it. This to me means the class set balance changes that we got in 2.6.4 are going to be rarer, probably about what we saw in between 2.6.1 and 2.6.4. We might see some more little quality of life improvements for here and there, but they're not going to dig as deep into the game in between the seasons. But they also only did 1 week of PTR testing for this season, as opposed to the usual 2-month cycle that we had for the past dozen or so seasons. This, of course, is a different development team. It's Classic Games, not Team 3, that's going and heading up Diablo 3 now. So they're going to have different production philosophies, different design and workflow rates. They're going to have different resource allocations. So right now, they more or less just finished up the Switch release. They now went through and they did the Season 16. They're being a bit more adventurous with the seasonal buff with the Ring of Royal Grandeur, as opposed to the double bounty bags or double goblins. I would definitely like to see more things going and pushing forward on the Ring of Royal Grandeur-esque buffs. I know one that had been thrown out and discussed at BlizzCon, and we did get to see a little bit of it here now with the Legacy of Nightmares being buffed. But what if you made the numbers insane? Take it to 2,000%. Increase per item, as opposed to the new 750, or even just the Legacy of Nightmares is the only set that can drop in a season. Just something new and different that's actually gonna go and change up gameplay, because I think the Ring of Royal Grandeur will be the first to actually pseudo change gameplay, and that's gonna be minor changes, and it might mix up 1 or 2 builds, but it's not going to really change how you play, so to speak. If you're playing Pestilence Necromancer, now you get to use Moribunds alongside Corpse Whisper. If you want to go and use a Golem or something like that. It's just it's not going to change how you play, so to speak. It will add little quirks. It might make one particular set combination stronger than what's at the top meta, and that could go and change things up. But at the moment, it's going to be just we're looking at minor tweaks. And it also is kind of what can we look forward to for the rest of the year. And again, just to kind of sum it up, if we're going to have these hard-coded 3-month cycles where the start date isn't really relevant, and that if we go and we look out, the 3 months past March, and like, maybe we can already call it here, and that the excuse me, that is going to be June, July for the, like June, July 17th, or 18th is going to be the end date for season 16. We'll see. But don't expect any more. I wouldn't expect any more like class set changes or balance tweaks out of season 17. I would hope for some more like little quality of life changes that some people have been asking for. Stash space, maybe we'll get some more transmog options. Who knows? Once we get past the summer and Classic Games releases Warcraft 3 Reforged, they might be able to allocate more resources to Diablo 3. It might be one of the multiple projects that they're working on. We could, who knows, maybe one day actually get a class pack. It makes it sound bad that like Diablo 3 is in maintenance mode. Oh, it's in Classic Games. That's where all the old titles go. But I feel as if they need to change their title at this rate, because like Classic Games is making new games. they're not just like like heritage games or something like that. I don't know. They're definitely not where they just stick a title up to collect dust. That they have people that are actually actively going through and working on them. They might they might go back, look at it, say, hey, the Necromancer was successful, why don't we make another character pack? They're not making Revive, so the resource cost to development and development time should hopefully be a lot less. Everything that we heard from the developers about the Necromancer was that Revive was huge, and that they need to make an item to buff Revive more than what it is, because I would love to go through and see Revive be like an in-game staple. It just ended up not being the case. But as they say la vie. From that, the only other thing is not necessarily Diablo related, but it's something that we as Diablo players definitely feel. Is kind of the scaling back of Heroes of the Storm and the closing of the HGC and the officially sanctioned Blizzard eSports for Heroes of the Storm. Something that is just like, man, that is heartbreaking. Like with Diablo 3, we kind of got put on life support. We're never directly told, but with that one, it's kind of like, well, we're majorly scaling back, the production of the game. We're closing the esports segment. Heroes of the Dorm and the HGC aren't coming back. It was a good run. Good luck, guys. That must have been painful. As being, like a Heroes content creator or someone that's on an esports team and suddenly is, basically no longer employed. The casters, which are like, well, crap, I have to diversify now, and that's rough and impacts like a lot of people. I know I've been seeing like Heroes Hype, which was like one of the bigger fan driven series podcasts and content. That they have plans going forward, and that they're still dedicated to Heroes, and that's something that a lot of other Diablo content creators are. Even though we know that this is it, this is what we're getting until the next big thing comes out. Well, I guess the next big thing comes out, because the next big thing is going to be Immortal, and that's conversations that I've also had with like how do you like maintain like full-blown content creation for a mobile title. People went through and they had like the Pokemon Go experience, but that was more of like the like IRL streams, because it's you're watching them go and walk around the world. There's ways to do it through emulators and such, but with the kind of, it's something that will definitely, you'll have to wait, because of just right now is not a good time to try and gauge the community's expectations or what they would want from a Diablo Immortal content creator, because people just don't want Diablo Immortal content right now. And it's a shame. It's really a shame. Things have calmed down a lot and I feel as if a lot of the criticisms are becoming stronger, and the feelings about the game, now that kind of emotions have cooled, and that people are having a bit more rational discussions about like the pros and cons of Immortal, as opposed to just everything is met with a "don't you have a phone" comment. That's not exactly true. Everything is still met with a "don't you have a phone" comment, and that is probably quickly becoming one of my most hated phrases of 2018. You know, not to like completely be a Blizzard fanboy, because I have concerns too. I just you know, published an article on Diablo fans where I lay out a lot of my concerns and hesitations towards Immortal. But it's just like, come on, guys, you can do better than that. That's so low effort, and it shuts down any type of conversation when half of the comments are "don't you have a phone," or when people are trying to have a legitimate debate about like positives and negatives, and then every other reply is just people butting in and saying, "Well, don't you have a phone? Can you talk about this on your phone?" It's like, please lay it to rest. At least like you know, this could be an out of season April Fool's Day joke. At least I see that a lot less, and so that seems a bit more original and not as low effort. And getting back on track, it's really really sad for, you know, everyone out there in the Heroes community, and it just kind of comes back that those types of decisions add more leverage to the things that were laid out in that bombshell of a Kotaku article. There's certainly, you know, going and talking about, you know, well, Blizzard's changed. They're more concerned about, you know, cutting costs. They're more concerned about actual like long-term upkeep and maintenance, you know, profitability, and things that you never really heard Blizzard talk about in the past. You know, it's things that they obviously at a certain point with like Warcraft 3, Diablo 2, the original StarCraft, that it's, well, you know, it's just not worth it to continue to devote resources to this, and hence, you know, Classic Games was born. This was a very long time ago, and it's just like, we'll continue to go through and upkeep it, but we're not really going to be adding a lot of new content to it. But this is like the kind of like these next gen, like your StarCraft 2s, Diablo 3s. This is kind of like the first of like the second age of Blizzard, that, you know, games are viewed as a service and not a one and done. It's not a one-time purchase that you're lucky to get continued content. Now everyone expects that after I get that purchase, I'm getting more. You know, whether it's the you know, and slightly different example, but because Path of Exile is free, but, you know, I expect that if I'm a Path of Exile player, when I go into Path of Exile, if I say take a break or continue to play season after season, I'm getting new content. I'm getting more content. You're always giving me something new to keep me interested, because I only want to play this game. And that's something that you see throughout the Diablo community. Like, we only want to play Diablo, but there's just not enough new content coming in to keep us interested. Gaming just has changed, you know, since 2000 when Diablo 2 came out. That our expectations have changed. We want games as a service, not as just a game, and that's something that they are looking to do with Immortal. But then the question is, well, how are we paying for it? And with NetEase in the picture, it raises concerns. But enough about that. Enough about that. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about some lore. You know, going in since our last episode. You know, well, not since the last episode, but right before the last episode, the Book of Adria got released, and I'm hoping that a lot of you have gone through and picked it up, or at least some of you have gone and picked it up, and so that we can go through and maybe have a little bit of a chat about some of the big things that are in there. I've talked about it a little bit on prior episodes, but I do want to go and reiterate. Like, one of my absolute favorite things in the book is just the little section on days and months, where for like the very first time, you're going and getting the actual names of the months, you know, within the world of Diablo. And it's little world building things like this that are so cool. Because like if you want to go and, you know, like write a journal for your character or a fan fiction, am I saying that, you know, this takes place in April? No, you know, this takes place in Cathon. It's, you know, the 5th day of Cathon. Yeah, it's just like little tiny things like that that help build the world, make it more interesting. You know, they don't actually even have, like, you know, they never made the names of months in World of Warcraft, and this goes all the way back. And the thing that really burned this question into my head goes all the way back to like 2000, with the very first Diablo book. Or I should say the very first Diablo ebook, Demon's Bane, because it takes place during the month of Rathma. And it's just, oh, that's so cool. They like named their months, and then we never heard a single thing past that. Do we need a spoiler warning disclaimer? Not really. Sorry, Longshot's just asking a question in chat. Do we need a spoiler warning? I guess so. If you don't want some of the things in the book spoiled, but the Book of Adria is different. It doesn't really tell like a novel story. It adds flavor. It adds depth to the world. You know, and that's what I so love about the Book of Cain, the Book of Adria, and now the Book of Adria, the Book of Tyrael, is that they add depth, they add reasons. There was a Reddit post just a couple days ago where I was answering some questions that someone, you know, wanted to know. It's something that I've seen come up a lot. We've gotten at least like half a dozen emails on the show about it. I see it pop up on Reddit or the official forums every once in a while. Is like, how did the souls of the Prime Evil, or the Prime Evils, get stuck into the Black Soul Stone to make the Prime Evil? One little thing, Blizzard, going forward, don't call the collective 7 evils the Prime Evils, and then make their shared form the Prime Evil, because then it makes it somewhat confusing to what it is that you're talking about. Anyways, moving on. That it does talk a little bit further about that in this book, where it mentions, you know, a little bit about Zoltan Kulle, a little bit about the Black Soul Stone. It talked a lot more about that in the Book of Tyrael, about the actual processes that Adria went and learned and that Zoltan Kulle had made in order to mark a demon soul, in order to have it basically flagged to be trapped within the Black Soul Stone once it was completed. And it also talked, in the Book of Tyrael, it talked about how whenever a demon dies on Sanctuary, it leaves a part of its soul in the place where it died, to explain hauntings and possessions, places that just always seem dark no matter how bright the light is. Or, you know, when you walk through an abandoned building and you always feel that there's something there with you. Those are places of great evil that will be forever marred by the fact that a demon was slain there. Part of its soul, part of pure evil, will infest that area for all eternity. And because of that, you're actually able to interact with them slightly. Zoltan Kulle was able to make spells and, you know, special magical formula, so that way he could mark a demon soul at these kind of places of corruption, so that way he could then later draw them into soul stones. The Book of Adria talks about how she went and practiced some of these techniques on lesser demons, or she would slay them and then from their imprint go and practice Zoltan Kulle's formulas in order to go and trap them within soul stones, before she decided that she was actually going to begin to tackle the lesser and the greater evils themselves. And then within it, it's so awesome, because it talks a little bit, each one of the Prime Evils gets a couple of pages dedicated to it, where she talks about them. You know, maybe it was something there, what a part that they played, you know, within the the Great Exile, the Civil War, the Battle for the Burning Hells, or maybe it's just like their general outlook on life. But then it talked about how she captured them and how their souls like fought back. And then it also gives you like the little you know, the if I get it up in the camera there, the actual summoning rituals that were used for every single one of the 7 evils. It actually has a summoning circle for. And this was one of those I talked very briefly with Robert Brooks and Matt Burns at BlizzCon, the writers of this, and it was one that they were going and they were working on this section, and they said, you know, wouldn't it be cool if we went through and we got like little summoning circles or something like that? And so they reached out to some of the artists, and they're like, hey, we're writing this section of the book and wondered if you'd like to make any type of you know, like kind of concept art or art for it or illustrations. And then what they produced just absolutely blew them away. These big intricate circles and runes, and so they had to go and they dug a little bit deeper into that because they had to have something in the book matching the awesomeness that the art team went through and made for it. And there's so much just unique art that's in the book, and that is just it's so cool because the people that are in charge, the writers, the artists, they're still very much in tune with Diablo. And it does give me hope that as they go and continue to move forward, you know, with the different iterations of the franchise, whether it be Immortal, Diablo 4, whatever comes next, one of the multiple projects that they have in mind, that, you know, from a base point, they've got a good understanding of what Diablo is. You know, there's of course always going to be the controversy involving the art direction for Diablo 3, that some people will just never get over it. And from what we saw in the Kotaku article with Project Fenris, they seem to wanting to go through and embrace the darkness. And if they keep with the art that's found in the Book of Adria, they're definitely going to go through and rock that for certain. Because you just have so many of these just beautiful kind of like you know, hand-drawn pieces that I think that really captures, or at least helps capture, the essence of what Diablo is. It got a lot of flack, but I absolutely loved the hand-drawn cinematics that they use in Diablo 3. Not just the still images that happen between the story arcs within an act, but like that opening sequence to Diablo 3 where you got to see the battle between the angels and demons. If they continue to do they get actual 3D CGI cinematic in that style, it would absolutely look amazing. I would love to just see a animated short series, you know, a la, say, like the original Star Wars Clone Wars, where it's a whole bunch of like little 5-minute vignettes. If they did it in this kind of hand-drawn style, that would be, you know, absolutely amazing. Just kind of, it gives in a flair that is distinctly Diablo. And it's something that I would just love to see them hunker down on. Is like, this is like the Diablo art style. This is something that we're always going to do for like the Diablo and going in the future. You know, I'm sure that I might be in the minority for that one. Everyone loves their full-fledged, you know, cinematics, you know, a la the like Warcraft opening cinematics and such. But yeah, who knows? The cinematic for Immortal was pretty cool. That was done with a completely different engine though, and I think that one was done with like the concept art and such from NetEase. I'm not 110% on that one. We'll have to see where they go with it. And then yeah, there's just the actual kind of story that's set up within the Book of Adria is that it's a journal, almost an encyclopedia of sorts, that Adria hand wrote herself. It originally was written before Diablo 1, when Adria was a member of the Coven, and then later, once she, in Magda, killed the original leaders of the Coven to go and take control, that she wanted to pass down all of her knowledge and her findings, so that way it could always help, the Coven's goals in order to, enact the will of the primevals. And it slowly changes as, it builds upon her eventually hearing the call of Diablo, going to Tristram, leaving the Coven, and then throughout the events of Diablo 3 and a little bit of the events in Reaper of Souls. She even goes back, and parts that were written before, while she was a member of the Coven, gets highlighted, or little scribblings in the margins and such, that she goes and learns more about the world or the evils or the creatures within it. That she's added these little footnotes that these are things that we need to update. But she also talks a little bit about her break with the Coven, and why she took all of this information with her. And even going back to the part about the days and the months, it actually talks these are the best times to call demons. These are the best times to attempt to summon the dead. These are times when certain spells, like scryings or illusions, are at their greatest. And everything has little footnotes about how it can be used, or how you can get by it. When you're going and you're talking about ghosts, it mentions a little bit about souls and how you can try to trap them or tap them, for their knowledge or their potential. Talking about, say, the Gargantuan or the Witch Doctor minions, and how the Witch Doctors are misguided, that their unformed lands, might not actually be real. That some of the great spirits in the unformed lands are actually, the greater evils themselves. Or when it's talking about just some of the regular creatures of Sanctuary, it gives techniques on how to harvest poisons, or what you can best use the different body parts and components are. If you care anything about the story of Diablo, not necessarily Diablo 3, but the world of Diablo itself, the Book of Adria is an auto buy. You absolutely have to go through and pick up this book. It is great. Even if you're not so much into the lore and story, it is the most amazing, coffee table inclusion. Because this, if you just have that on your coffee table, just sitting there, that's going to start some conversations. Maybe they're not the right conversations, like when the parents come over for the holidays, but hey, it starts conversations some way, right? And then the one last thing that I wanted to go through and touch on is just where we go with the story from here, because there are certain things that are left open, and nothing that Blizzard has published so far has gone past the ending of Reaper of Souls. The Book of Adria, of course, being written by her, stops, 2/3 of the way through Act 5. It actually, well, not even so much, it more or less stops a little bit before Malthael's attack on Westmarch and the rest of the world. And so we still are left, at this point. Now, we don't know what comes next. We don't know what the world looks like. The only things that we've seen from Blizzard is Immortal. And that, of course, is taking place 15 years prior. I guess we could maybe say that the only thing we've really seen pushing the envelope a little bit is the Shrouded Moors in the Temple of the Firstborn. And that's maybe that was some leftover hints from the canceled second expansion that they were trying to go with the story, where, well, we killed the primeval, we built Malthael, who had gluttoned himself on the powers of thousands, if not millions of, Nephilim souls, human/Nephilim souls. Well, what's next? Well, we fought an angel glutted on souls. Let's fight a demon glutted on souls, where we had the Lieutenant of Envy that went through and was gorging himself on human blood in order to try and just get a little tiny bit of that Nephilim spark, and that this path of ascension that his cult was going through and doing in the Shrouded Moors was actually seeming to work, that they weren't fully becoming Nephilim, but they definitely were becoming greater than what their normal mortal frame could maintain. And that could be an indication of where they wanted to go, not necessarily where they will go with Diablo 4, but it is kind of cool because, you know, we're now, it's always been a gothic horror game, but we're now in a post-apocalyptic fantasy world. You know, because you have to, one of the big things is Malthael wasn't just attacking Sanctuary, or wasn't just attacking Westmarch, he was attacking all of Sanctuary. The one of the cutscenes that you go through as you walk into the Pandemonium Fortress, and Malthael is talking about how he's gonna like end the eternal conflict. This is a scene, you know, from that cinematic where Malthael has teleported the Black Soulstone into the middle of Chaldeum and is, you know, claiming the souls of all of the humans there. The world has been devastated. As you go through and you see in all of the different little class stories in the Pandemonium Fortress, you know, Malthael's attacks were going everywhere. He, you know, killed the elders of Yvgarad, the leaders of the monks. He decimated the priests of Rathma, you know, in the jungles of Kyrgyzstan. There's so much that's going on that the world itself, after the events of Reaper of Souls, has changed fundamentally. And I wonder how they're going to go about that, how they're going to talk about it or show just how much of an impact Malthael had on everything. And once you solve the issue of what do you do with the godlike beings of the Nephilim running around and, you know, destroying everything, it sets up for a pretty Diablo story, because everything is bleak. Like, you know, let's even give a rough estimate, like half the population of Sanctuary is dead. Like, your family is gone. You know, you fear not only demons, but angels too. Everyone is the enemy of humans. You're living in fear. That sounds like the perfect opening to a new Diablo game. And of course, we do also have Immortal, and that is, I guess, going to be a bit more like the Book of Adria and Tyrael and such, where it's not really telling a news story, so to say, but maybe filling in some more gaps. And just like some of the things that you know, I kind of like clicked in on from like the Immortal announcement was just like they are wanting to bring more of the world to bear, maybe as building things up for an actual like full open world Diablo title with Diablo Next. But like this is the concept art for the hub of Westmarch, and like that is a beautiful gothic setting. You know, that would be a great place to go and explore in a Diablo game, and we'll be able to actually, like, I don't know how much of the city we'll be able to go through. You know, obviously I hope more than the Westmarch Commons, that we'll be able to see, you know, maybe a trade center, or go into the castle of Westmarch as an actual, you know, city hub, and get to see what a living, breathing city in the world of Diablo looks like. But there are, you know, other little things that we can go and kind of pick up on from the story. And these are just, I'm going to talk about two of the things I'm kind of excited with the story of where they might go with Diablo Immortal. And I hope that you stay with me here for just a little bit. I know that we're going and talking about that. And yes, I do have a phone just to answer your question. But the first one is the Bilefen. And this was where the demo took place at BlizzCon within Diablo Immortal. And it's south of the Aranok Desert, so it's very far south from Lut Gholein, and where the game takes place in Act 2 of Diablo 2. But it's interesting because kind of like the major city here is called Port Justinian. And to tell you what the significance of that is, the line of rulers that have been kind of like the regent lords of Westmarch has been the Justinian line. So I imagine that Bilefin and that island is like an outpost of Westmarch. You know, if its a town is called Port Justinian. And so we might see, like, within that area, if we go beyond the swamps and such, that we might see more of, like, kind of like Westmarch themes, you know, the wolf theme and such. But it could also raise one of those questions, why so far east? You know, this is well beyond Westmarch borders. You know, this goes farther into the territory of Kandurus. It is not that far from Skovos. And Skovos itself is a very militant society, you know, where they don't like outsiders. They don't like sharing. And having kind of like this outpost of a rival nation that's itself, you know, prides itself on its military strength, I imagine there probably should be like some infighting that's going on there, or maybe it's been abandoned, you know, in recent years. But could there be, you know, could one of the reasons why Westmarch was important because, you know, of the you know, some of the original founder of Westmarch was very obsessed with Nephilim and Nephilim lore. Could be that he found some manuscripts to come out here to this region, you know, this island, and want to establish an outpost because he felt that it was an important place for the Nephilim. It's you know, just like very little interesting things that gets me excited from just hearing like a little tiny thing. The name of a town that's not even shown inside of the demo, and it's got my mind, you know, going all over the place with things that they could do or places that they could be, you know, building upon for the story. And the second place I wanted to talk about was that they hinted. We didn't really get to see anything besides the concept art, but that's of the Forgotten Tower. And that's something that anyone that's played Diablo 2 will be familiar with. It's where the Countess resided. And what makes it interesting is that they talked about the Countess supposedly being resurrected. Now this is something that got hinted at a little bit back when Diablo 3 was first launching in the Sword of Justice comic series. As you know, after Jacob had found the sword, the Sword of Justice, Tyrael's sword, Eldruin, sorry for forgetting the name there, you know, they were going to basically kind of like going on like a little bit of a quest, and they got teleported to the Forgotten Tower. And there was a bunch of Khazra that had come up and set up camp within the Forgotten Tower, and were doing these profane rituals. And I guess, given the time frame that takes place between the Sword of Justice, you know, and Diablo Immortal, they kind of are syncing up at around the same time frame. This could be one of those things where we get to go in there and actually find out what the Khazra were doing and how they come about resurrecting the Countess, you know, within the Forgotten Tower, maybe building upon it, because in Diablo 2 it's just a tower, but in and of itself in the original lore was supposed to be a massive castle. And this is where the Countess had basically staked her claim, you know, in this region of Kandurus, you know, before she was eventually, you know, overthrown and the castle burnt to the ground. You know, maybe we'll be able to go and explore more of the castle grounds, see what might have happened those, you know, hundreds of years ago, those centuries of, you know, corrupted ruins and temples, and just all these like little cool dark aspects that makes me excited for where they could go with the story. And we hope that they do go with the story and keep it dark. But, you know, that's just some of my thoughts, some of my favorite things that I've seen where they could go with the story and the lore, you know, with the Diablo franchise itself. And I would actually love to go through and hear what your thoughts are. What are some of the things that you would look forward to? What's an aspect of the Diablo universe that you would like to hear more about? What's something that you would like to hear elaborated on? Just send me an email, westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. Go through and read off some of my favorites. But to make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more worth your while, I'll actually be going through and giving away a Book of Adria, to my favorite question that comes in. So again, all you have to do, you just have to go through and send me, not necessarily a question, but what's your favorite aspect of Diablo lore? It could be a favorite character, a favorite line, what's your favorite city, or what you want next from the Diablo franchise. What's a question that you want answered? Do you want to explore the vast reaches of the Aranok Desert? Do you want to know the names of all 1001 gods of the monks of Yvgarad? I want to know more about what interests you in the Diablo story. So go ahead, get out your phone, send me an email, westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. I'll go through, I'll pick my favorite on the next episode, which should be January 2nd. And I'll go through and give away the book to the winner. And just to be clear, I'm 100% okay with going through and shipping internationally. And also, as a side note, I would like to thank Blizzard, because Blizzard Entertainment actually are the ones that provided me with this extra copy of the Book of Adria in order to go through and do this giveaway. So, thank you guys for still going through and keeping true to the lore and the story, because the book itself was amazing. And if you haven't gotten it yet, I'd love to be able to go through and give you a copy. So again, hit me up with that email, your favorite aspect of lore, or where you would like to see the Diablo franchise explore. And that's westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. And with that, it's going to bring me to the end of the episode. I do wish you all a happy holidays. We look forward to going through and seeing you next time. Not me. I've been saying that for years. It's going to take a lot in order to break me of that habit. But again, if you want to go through and send in stories or items, westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com in order to go through and get featured on the community section. I'm on Twitter @the WM Workshop, or you can follow me personally @Neinball Gamer. And I live stream here every other Wednesday at twitch.tv/BlizzPro at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And while you're here, if you want to go through and get notified of when the show goes live, go ahead and hit that follow button. If you hit the subscribe button, it will go through to help cover the cost of not just the Westmarch Workshop, but also of BlizzPro.com as a whole. BlizzPro.com is a great little community where we cover all things Blizzard, and as a fan site, hosting costs suck. So, all those Blizzard subscriptions, all those Twitch subscriptions goes to helping to defer the hosting costs of the website, as well as our various podcasts. And speaking of which, you can go through and cover all the latest Diablo news at diablo.blizzpro.com. You can also go through and find us. We're in-game. We are the BlizzPro clan. There are tons of spaces. We are looking forward to seeing how activity is going to be going into Season 16, but go ahead, drop us a line or go ahead and send a request in-game in order to go and get into the clan. If you don't want to leave your current clan, you can find us, we're the in-game community of Westmarch Workshop. You can also find us on Discord. We're discord.gg/BlizzPro to go through, hang out, and chat, as well as just define groups, in order to get your Diablo season group together. And again, you can follow me individually at Neinball Gamer and at twitch.tv/Neinball, where one day, eventually, maybe next year, I might start streaming. But until then, I thank you for going through and joining me here on this little special episode. Sorry for it being delayed on a Thursday. I know that was weird, but we'll go through and we'll catch you guys next time.